The Witihiti Peak at Kataragama Sacred Zone
was conceived as a sanctuary, a place where dense, ancient mountain forests protect a delicate harmony. But on the ground, that harmony is breaking down. Unmanaged surges of pilgrims climb the mountain each year, leaving behind trails of discarded PET water bottles and single-use polythene wrappers across the forest floor. This waste immediately alters the local food web. Native macaques and wild boars are undergoing a forced dietary shift, scavenging through open bins and ingesting sharp plastic shards, along with contaminated food scraps. And this localized damage reflects a much larger, lethal national reality. In the Ampara region, open municipal landfills like the Oluvel Palakadu dump sit directly inside natural elephant roaming paths. When these elephants rummage for food, they swallow thick plastics that their bodies cannot break down. Autopsies by wildlife veterinarians routinely recover kilos of compressed polyethylene bags from their stomachs, which cause fatal intestinal blockages and a slow, painful death by starvation. A persistent failure in basic site management is actively killing native wildlife and threatening the country's natural heritage. Nationwide, Sri Lanka consumes over 938,000 metric tons of plastic annually. Of that total, roughly 40% is completely mismanaged. That massive, unmanaged portion is exactly what floods into the open environment, accumulating along pilgrimage access routes and deep inside national parks. And it doesn't stop inland. This chart shows the approximate sources of litter reaching Sri Lankan beaches. As you can see, 90% of the debris choking fragile coastal ecosystems originates from land-based failures. Sri Lanka actually has plenty of broad environmental laws on the books. What it lacks is a nationally visible, strictly enforced visitor protection regime to intercept waste right at the entry gates of these vulnerable destinations. We know that high visitor volume does not guarantee environmental destruction. At major heritage sites in Japan, like Kinkakuji, massive daily crowds move through complex environments without leaving a trace. They achieve this through highly specific behavioral engineering. Visitors encounter strict multilingual rules before entry, backed by clear physical zoning and active monitoring by site staff. The Act targets physical infrastructure first. It mandates replacing open public trash bins with heavy-duty, wildlife-proof sorting stations and establishes strict pack-in, pack-out rules for remote wilderness trails, and issue immediate fines for littering in protected zones. Depending on visitor goodwill leaves ecosystems vulnerable to irreversible decay. The only way to stop the pollution is to mandate clear behavioral boundaries and enforce them. If implemented, the entrance to Wada Siti Khanda would look completely different. Pilgrims would pass through checkpoints governed by standardized, icon-based signage, while active rangers ensure zero single-use plastics cross the boundary. Cut off from human refuse, native wildlife populations will safely return to foraging in the surrounding scrubland, restoring natural behaviors and proper diets. This is also a direct economic imperative. The global tourism market heavily prioritizes sustainability, and international travelers will not return to or recommend destinations visibly saturated in plastic waste. Immediate, enforceable site management is the only way to protect the ecological and cultural assets passed down to future generations.